Good afternoon to all the participants who is attending the third lecture on the geospatial application of forestry of geospatial application for forest productivity assessment. So today we'll be mostly talking about how we can use these remote sensing satellite data and some ecosystem models in order to assess the forest productivity. So before going to the how to do the forest productivity, we can just try to know what we mean by productivity. So productivity of an ecosystem refers to the percentage of energy that enters the ecosystem in form of biomass at a particular trophic level. Or we can say how much biomass or how much organic compound that has been accumulated over a time. It can be defined as a productivity, especially for a trophic area, or if we are talking about only the forest or the trees, then it can be said like the amount of biomass that has been increased or the organic matter that has been captured by the forest can be defined as productivity. So when we generally talk about the productivity, we can divide those productivity, or like we can further classify into primarily two. That is, the first one is the gross primary productivity, which is also known as GPP, and it is the amount of organic matter that is synthesized by the plant per unit area of for a known time or a per unit time. And the net primary productivity is the amount of organic matter that remains after the respiration, or the organic matter that has been again released back to the atmosphere due to the consumption by the plant itself. So if we look at the figure below, then the overall how much photosynthesis has taken place at per unit time, and how much of carbon dioxide has been sequestered or like taken in by the plant is the total is the gross primary productivity. Out of those GPP, how much has been released back to the atmosphere for through the process of plant respiration? It is called the net primary productivity. So from net primary productivity, again, if we have to further go deeper, then like there is a term called NEP or NEE, that is the net ecosystem productivity, or we can say the net ecosystem exchange also. So when we incorporate or when we further subtract the decomposition by the heterotrophs or the respiration by the heterotrophs, if we subtract that one from the net primary productivity, then it is called it gives us the net ecosystem productivity or the net ecosystem exchange. So once if there is disturbance or harvesting or any kind of activity that is taking place over there in that particular ecosystem, then if we consider that portion, that is the disturbance on the harvest, then it can be termed as the net bioproductivity or NBP. So if there has to be a long-term carbon sequestration, then we can either go for the NBP, or we have to understand the NEP or the net ecosystem exchange in order to see how much carbon actual sequestration is taking place. So coming next to like why do we need to assess the forest productivity is like related with the climate change or the carbon cycle. So of all the carbon cycle or of all the processes that we have, vegetation, gross primary productivity, that is GPP by the vegetation, is the largest CO2 flux of the carbon cycle in the terrestrial ecosystem, and it impacts all of the carbon cycle variables. And of all those vegetation or the vegetation GPP or the terrestrial ecosystem, among those, again, if we further go for the terrestrial ecosystem, it is the forest ecosystem which plays the most important which is the most important component or the largest storer of forest of carbon or carbon dioxide in the terrestrial ecosystem. So if we have to understand the carbon cycle or global or the regional carbon cycle, or how it is going to have the climate change or the increase in CO2 concentration is going to affect, or like how to mitigate these climate change, then we have to understand we have to accurately quantify the amount of GPP or the gross primary productivity by the forest ecosystem. So with this, we will go ahead with how we can quantify the forest productivity. So for forest productivity, if we have to check, then generally, yes, several methods, and some of the methods that are, the first one is the traditional field inventory method, in which we have already covered yesterday. That is the estimation of biomass. So if we have to estimate the productivity of a particular ecosystem or for a particular forest, and what we need here is using this traditional field inventory, then we'll calculate the biomass or estimate the biomass of that particular forest for two different time season, that is T1 or T2. But the disadvantage of this method is like we have to give enough time for the plant to have for the forest to show a significant growth or change in the biomass. So we have to give at least, if it is a young plantation, then we have to give like 3-4 years time or 5 years time in order to get the significant change in the vegetation productivity or forest productivity. So similarly, like when we use this field inventory plus the remote sensing technique, like yesterday, which Nandi sir has covered already, how to estimate the biomass using the field inventory and remote sensing technique. So plugging those field inventory and remote sensing, we can also estimate the biomass for T1 and T2, but the limitation or the issue of like enough time that has to be given, or how if we want to understand the interannual changes in the vegetation productivity, then with this first two methods, we are not able to access or assess the changes within the season or within the year itself. Then the third method is the leaf cuvette method, in which we use like the instruments like available in form of like photosynthesis meter. So we can take sample for some few leaves, and we can try to upscale the GPP or the photo productivity that we have measured using the photosynthesis meter from the leaf level to the canopy level, then from canopy level to the ecosystem level. So for this, we can use the radiative transfer model. But the issue here again with the leaf cuvette is the limitation in the number of leaf sample. So even for a single tree, there will be like different type of leaf, like whether some leaf will be in the like sun exposed area, some will be in the shaded area, some will be mature, some will be young, and some will be just newly developing, and some are about to be in the stage of death or decay. So those different sample or the variety of leaf or the stages of leaf depending upon the age and the maturity, and they are based on the position or the sun exposure. All those sample cannot be covered using all this leaf cuvette method. So there is only few samples are collected in this case. So we are not able to quantify exactly or sample everything which is contributing to the vegetation productivity. Then the fourth one is the photosynthetic chamber. So basically this fourth one is mostly used for productivity assessment for like in the lab or in the experimental method, like for the small vegetation, like in which we put a whole vegetation or the plants into a chamber, then we try to estimate or like measure how much change in the CO2 concentration it is taking place. Then we convert that one in terms of productivity and how much increase or decrease in the CO2 concentration within that chamber will give us the amount of sequestration or the amount of carbon that has been taken place by the vegetation itself. So these are some of the few techniques, and one of the widely or popularly used technique for estimation of vegetation productivity is the eddy covariance, or also known as the flux hour measurement, in which we use like a high-end technology or high-end instruments using the vertical wind speed and the changing CO2 concentration or any other variable of interest. And we try to calculate how much of carbon exchange is taking place per unit area or per unit time. So when we use this eddy covariance technique, there are certain advantages, like we can try to estimate the GPP or the NE or the evapotranspiration or the ecosystem respiration from the half-hourly time, from 30 minutes to 1 day, or like weekly or monthly, or on yearly scale, as long as we keep on maintaining or running the flux towers. So the advantage or the disadvantage that we have in the first, second, or the third method for estimation of productivity is overcome easily when we use this eddy covariance technique. But the limitation of eddy covariance technique is like they have a large footprint area, like generally from ranging from like 500 meter to a kilometer or 2-3 kilometer. But again, if we have to upscale, if we have to understand the phenomenon of vegetation productivity on a larger scale, then in that case, we have to integrate those information that we have obtained from the flux towers or the eddy governance technique with remote sensing. Then only we will be able to see the bigger picture of how the carbon exchange is taking place over that area, or how much CO2 has been taken in by the forest ecosystem. So with integration of remote sensing, we can see a bigger picture. The understanding that we have obtained from the eddy governance can be incorporated in this eddy governance plus the remote sensing technique, or with use of other ecosystem models, like ranging from empirical or semi-empirical and the process-based model. We can try to estimate that one, or like we can assess the vegetation or the forest productivity. So just as we have talked about the eddy governance, some of the advantage that we have in the eddy governance technique is like the scale appropriate, like we can get the like from the half hourly time to a year level, or like we can see the interannual or intra-annual changes in the vegetation productivity can be understood or studied nicely. Then we have the direct measurement of the NE, that is the net ecosystem exchange, how much carbon exchange is taking place. We can do that one using this eddy governance technique, like in case of this field inventory and the remote sensing technique. The first two technique, we have to either go for the field measurement, then from the field measurement from the GVH, we will convert that one into DVH. Then from the DVH, we have to use the volume equation. Then we have to get into biomass, and later on, like we have to go for several steps in order to get how much of carbon sequestration is taking place. Then we have the larger footprint area. Then we have this the wide spectrum of time scale. Then some of the disadvantages, however, there are many advantages of eddy governance technique, but there are some disadvantages, that is the nocturnal underestimation. That is during, especially due to the in the night time, due to the decoupling of the atmosphere and the underlying ecosystem, there is more of eviction is taking place. There is more of a lateral transfer of energy, or the scalar, or like more of a lateral flow of wind. So because of that, like there is underestimation of NE. Then for this eddy governance technique to work, we need the ideal terrain, and like there are some, most of the cases, like there are a lot of data gap due to not the technological limitation, but whenever we go for this installation of these flux towers, then we generally go for the forest area where there is no such facility like the electricity supply or the power supply. So we have to be dependent upon the solar panels. So sometimes the solar panel, especially in the winter time, due to like less sunshine, we have this power issue. Then other time, like during the rain, the instrument is not going to work. Then during some cases, like some birds and wildlife, they have the chances of disrupting the measurement as well as destroying the instrument that we have used for monitoring the vegetation productivity. So these are some of the advantages and disadvantages of eddy governance study. So in next, what we'll do is like how we have used this flux towers measurement as well as the remote sensing technique. We'll try to understand, or like I'll give you some of the case study, like what we have done in IIRS in estimation or the assessment of GPP, or the gross primary productivity, using the remote sensing as well as the ground measurement data, and how you can do the same when with other models also. So for this latter portion of this slide or the presentation, I will be mostly focusing on this portion of the forest, that is the Badkot forest, which is near the Haridwar and the Rishikesh. So there IIRS have a flux monitoring site, or the eddy governance site. This 50-meter tall tower. So we have been monitoring this site for quite a long time. Then we have this amount of carbon exchange that we have already estimated, like yearly, then monthly, how it changes, and the different meteorological sensors, like the incoming solar radiation in 4 components, that is pyranometer and piezometer. Then we have the incoming this wind like 30-meter wind speed and wind direction. We have the IIRS, that is the air temperature and the relative humidity. Then other than that, we have the rain gauge, and we have the incoming power radiation, which are not shown in this picture, but all those data that has been collected or measured by these towers, it is all together stored in this data logger, that is from Campbell Scientific. So this is some of the like this is a site, and some of the data which I'm going to show later or going to use in most of the case study is from this barcode flux side. So coming to some of the example is like the first one is we can try to estimate the forest productivity by using these vegetation indices. Simply, this is one of the very simple method, but if you have the ground data information or the ground measurement information, then we can directly go for either a linear or what to say, a logarithmic or whatever exponential. We can try to check and we can try to see which is giving us the best fit relation, and we can use that vegetation indices and we can use for upscaling the gross primary productivity of that vegetation using the vegetation indices. So in this case, like what you can see here is for this particular barcode forest, we have the GPP estimated or the measure using the flux towers. Then these are some of the vegetation indices which we have plotted or like which we have derived from the models. So out of all the 5 vegetation indices like the EVI, OSAVI, then WTRVI, then NDVI, then VALI, we found that EVI was giving us the maximum R square value of 0.62, and like we have used this EVI simply on based on like GPP is equal to A into A plus B into EVI, and we have we were able to get the GPP estimation of the barcode forest. So this is just the 8 days how the GPP increases from February, like February 2nd, then February 10th, then generally like it decrease in during this time, then during the March and March. Like there is some slight increment in the GPP, then again later portion of the March there is some decrease in the GPP of this or gross primary productivity of barcode area. So this is some of the things that we have done. And people has also repeated like reported like the applicability of vegetation indices like the EVI or the NDVI, particularly for these evergreen and deciduous forest site in estimation of GPP for this sites for forests using these vegetation indices. And next is there is one more method like which is similar with the vegetation indices, but instead of using only the vegetation indices, they have used the incoming solar radiation or the PAR that we say that is the PAR by PAR, that means the photosynthetic active radiation, that means the energy that is coming within the wavelength of 0.4 to 0.7 micrometer which is responsible or like which the plant uses for photosynthesis. So if we need this additional parameter, that is the incoming solar radiation or incoming part, that is photosynthetic active radiation, has to be with us. So if we have this one, then we can use this equation, that is the C into EVI into PAR. So EVI and PAR is the input data. Then once we have this one in the GPP, then we can try to calibrate the C portion. So once we get the value of C, then we can use this equation. We can use the same equation, or like with a parameterized value of C, we can try to estimate the GPP of the forest or for the larger area. So in this case, there is this model called the greenness radiation. It was developed by Jitalson in 2006. So we can always go for greenness radiation if you are able to even if we don't have a ground measurement, we can have this photosynthesis meter for like on seasonal basis, then or like from the literature we can always find out the C value, then we can try to get the PAR value. Then if we have the EVI or the vegetation indices from the satellite data, then we can use this equation for estimation of GPP or the gross primary productivity for the forest of our interest. So this is how we have done the parameterization, like we have estimated the C value for this particularly the barcode flux site, and we have run the equation or the GR model, and we have validated that one using the ground observation also. Then the other value, like from literature, like people has reported lower value of C compared compared with the barcode forest site. Maybe the forest site they have reported have less productivity compared, or like the Indian forest is more productive compared to the other forests which they have reported. So coming to next is the one more model which is very useful as well as In case like it reduces the dependency on the ground data. So that is called the temperature gridness model. So in this, what we do is we use the EVI and the satellite derived LST, that is the land surface temperature. So this is one of the models developed by Sims till 2008. If you go and check the paper, so what they do is like they simply first parameterize the M value using the ground observation. So then other than that, like this EVI and then LST, we can get this one from the satellite data. So whichever satellite that has the thermal sensor or the thermal bands, we will be able to estimate the lens surface temperature for any given point or any particular pixel. So using this AVI and LST, scale AVI and scale LST, we can parameterize the M value for a particular forest type or for a particular vegetation type. So once we get the M value, or once we have parameterized the M value for a particular vegetation or forest type, then we can use the M value, the same M value for other reason also if the forest type or the vegetation type is same. So how do we scale the EVI? Is simply subtracting 0.1 value from the actual EVI that we have calculated. It will give us the scale EVI. Then, and for scaling of LST, if you go and if we go for the original paper, then it is very simple. We have to take the minimum value of LST divided by 30, or otherwise we can use this 2.5 minus like 0.05 into LST. So out of these two, like the minimum value will be used as the scale AVI. So once we have the scale AVI and the scale LST, then we will be able to optimize or parameterize the M value. Then we can estimate. Once we have the M value, then we can use this one for upscaling in the larger area. So how this TG model or temperature gridness model, how people have reported different value. For the Michigan forest, you can see for other forests also they have reported 2.7 like micromole carbon per meter square per day. So if you see like for the Burkot forest, like which is like semi-evergreen or semi-deciduous, we can say for the present or the study site which we have shown earlier, like it has a slightly higher again the M value compared with other study site which has been reported from worldwide. So how we are able to do this one is like the EVI, as we know, is one of the vegetation indices which give more of an information of gridness and the canopy cover or the canopy photosynthetic capacity. So it will relatively give us the information on PAR and how much the absorption by the canopy or the gridness has been done. Then the second thing is the use of LST. So LST or the land surface temperature, it gives like people have seen and reported like the LST value has a very strong relationship with the air temperature than the VPD and the incoming solar radiation. That incoming solar radiation, particularly in 0.4 to 0.7 micrometer. So these, if we see like this air temperature, VPD, and incoming solar radiation, these are some of the variables which are very much control the carbon flux or the vegetation productivity of an area. The next thing is like the potential of like this LST to be a proxy of temperature and VPD has also been reported by others also. So if there is some increase or like temperature stress, or if there is some stress due to moisture, then in the LST we will be able to reflect this LST value will reflect like if there is any stress is going on in that forest area. So using this temperature gridness model, you can see how we have scale for this Burkot forest, like with the increasing temperature, like with the increasing temperature, the scale LST value increases. Then with like once it has reached the optimum or like 30 degrees Celsius, then with the increasing temperature also the scale LST, the value will decrease. So once this is how we scale the LST. So using the scale LST and EVI, we get the M parameter. Then with using the M parameter, we can estimate the GPP for the like the forest area or the Burkot forest we have done. So coming to one more technique, that is the light use efficiency model, which integrate all the satellite data or the ground observation data, which is more of a in this mechanistic kind of model. Like instead of going for the empirical, this is more of a like we try to see the process or like how the ecosystem or the forest productivity is governed. So in this, we try to, in this, the overall flowchart gives us the idea about how we integrate the eco-governance measurement with the ground observation as well as the satellite remote sensing data. So in this case, like we have on the right the observation from the flex towers, then we have the ground measurement, like from where we get the LAI or the leaf area index from the forest or the field area. Then using these vegetation indices, we can try to relate the LAI or the LAI with the different vegetation indices which fit the most, and we can predict the LAI. Once we predict the LAI, we will be able to estimate the F part, that is the fraction of photogenically active radiation that is present for that particular forest. Then we will be able to we have these different vegetation indices like the LSWI, which is the land surface wetness index or water index that we can use for estimation of water scalar, P scalar. Then we have temperature, which are from the ground measure data, or like either we can go for the available meteorological data on which is in geospatial domain like the ERA5 or JELSA. We have different sources of meteorological data. We can depend on that one also. So once we have all these, then we can estimate the Emax value, which is for a particular vegetation type. Once we have the Emax value, then we can try to calibrate the Emax based on the temperature scalar, water scalar, or different stress. These are the scalar, means like these are the stress that the ecosystem is going on or like facing at that time of GPP estimation. So how this Emax is regulated by these different water condition or the phenological condition and the temperature condition is depicted here. So once we have this different scalar reduces the Emax value, then we will be able to estimate the GPP value just by simply using this equation, that is F par, fraction of photogenically active radiation, into par, which will give us the absorb par or the A par, then the realized light use efficiency, that is the EC max. EC will give us the realized light use efficiency. Then once we have that one, then we will get the GPP. So for a more better understanding, like simple light use efficiency models, this is how the light use efficiency models work. That is, first one is the GPP is directly proportional to the absorbed photogenically active radiation. So that is how much of photosynthesis is going to take place. It is directly proportional to the absorbed incoming par. Then the next thing is like the light use efficiency or the LUE may be reduced due to the various environmental stress such as water stress and extreme temperature conditions. So if you see the equation, the first one, that is the GPP is equal to F par into EZ. So the first two black component, that is F par into par, it's that the first it is related to the first point that is stated here, that is GPP is directly proportional to the absorbed photogenically active radiation. So this par is meteorological data, so or the instantaneous or the daily incoming solar radiation or the photogenically active radiation which is available for the plant at that point of time. And the F par will give us it is dependent or it is a function of the leaf area index, or like how much dense the canopy or the forest is. So once we have multiplied these two, it will give us the A par, that is the absorbed photogenically active radiation. Then after that, this EZ component, if you further divide this EZ, so we have this Emax value. So Emax value is the maximum light use efficiency for a particular vegetation type, or we can say the PFT type, or a particular forest type. So once we have this one, then we have this temperature, then the water scalar, then the P scalar, which will try to calibrate, which depict the stress due to the water, or maybe due to the temperature condition, or maybe due to the phenological condition that is in that time. So using these three different scalar, we will try to regulate the Emax value for a particular PFT. Then we will get the EZ, or the realized light use efficiency that we say. Then we can use this EG value in the equation of, or the equation that gives us the GPP, then we can calculate the GPP easily. So for the calculation of these scalars, like we have the temperature scalar, if we from the flux tower itself, or the measurement from the ground measurement, we can try to always find out what is the optimum temperature that is good for a particular forest type or particular vegetation type, and what is the T max and the T minimum that is observed in that study site over a year or over a season can always be find out. And if we have to scale like for that time, if then what is the like temperature recorded on that instant for which we are trying to model or estimate the GPP, that is the T. So once we have the T mean, T max, T optimum, then we will be able to calculate the T scalar easily. Then we have the water scalar calculation. So for water scalar, we can try to use the LSWI value. So from the supply data, we can calculate the LSWI. So LSWI is nothing but the NIR minus SWIR divided by NIR plus SWIR. So it is more simple equation like the NDVI, that is the NIR plus SWIR divided by NIR minus SWIR divided by NIR plus SWIR. So instead of that, we will use this one, LSWI. In LSWI, once we have calculated the LSWI, then we can do the stack, or like we can get the maximum value for a particular year or for a particular season or growing season. So once we have this maximum LSWI value for a particular pixel, then for each and every pixel and each and every time, like we can calculate the how much value of like stress it is there, or like how much good the condition is due to moisture or water availability for a particular pixel. We can try to calculate that one, and it will give us the water scalar. Then the third thing is the P scalar. So the P scalar, it can be calculated easily by using the 1 plus LSWI divided by 2. So but generally, but for the P scalar, what we do is it is only used like during the time of flowering and at the time of leaf development. So once the flowering and the leaf development stage is over, the P scalar value is supposed to be 1, or like once the leaf expansion is full, or like once that leaf greening is totally taken place, then after that we will have to use the value of P scalar as 1, as there is no constraint from the phenology side. That means there is no limitation from the phenological side that is limiting the productivity of that forest or that vegetation. So for the estimation of the Emax, what we can do is like we have the LUE or the EG for seasonally on daily basis. We can calculate, and the maximum value that we observe in a year, or we can fix that one is Emax for a particular vegetation type. So once we have the Emax, then it is very easy to calculate or like work out with the light use efficiency model. So all the accuracy, or how much accuracy that we are going to get, how much from the model or the model light use efficiency model depends upon the calibration and the proper parameterization of the Emax value, then the T optimum value. So here in this case, like what we have seen here is some of the models like which you might have come across, like some of the very commonly used model like the CASA model which we have, which give us the net primary productivity. Then we have some like modest GPP which is freely available like for the whole globe. So, and we have like 3GP, CFX, then VPM, then the EC, the coherence light use efficiency, and like this is the primary light use efficiency which we have used. So if you go and if we check the equation, so mostly the calibration part, if you can see here, is like they are using the Emax. For Emax, once we have this one, then they have this temperature scalar or the VPT scalar, or in some case they have used this Emax as equal to the EG or the realized light use efficiency. So most of the models which we have seen, or like which you will come across, in beneath all those models you will find the concept of light use efficiency only. So in this case, like in modest, if you see the Emax value, like it has a value ranging from like 0.64 to 1.281. So in this case, why the value it is, because depending upon the PFT type, like they have like especially for the particular forest type, they have like 5 forest type defined. In the modest PFT, you have your needle leaf, needle leaf. Then you have your broadleaf. In broadleaf, needle leaf. Again, it is further divided into deciduous and evergreen. Then you have your mixed forest also. So for those 5 different Emax value has been estimated or parameterized for a particular PFT. So the value of this range they will use, they have defined using this value. So when we go for the light use efficiency model, one of the important parameter is the estimation or parameterization of this Emax value or the proper calibration of this Emax for a particular vegetation type. So for this study, like how we have done is like we have estimated the proper Emax for the Sal forest in the Burkot area to be 2.044, and we have okay, just before going to that, but other uses of like satellite remote sensing data, as I have mentioned earlier, is like how we can try to use the satellite remote sensing for estimation of LAI. Then from LAI, how we can use the derivation of FPAR product. So for first, like we can go and measure the different LAI value in different plots. Then we can try to relate with different vegetation type. Then which one is giving the best relation? Then we can use that one for estimation of LAI. So this is how we have done, like with using the plant canopy analyzer or like field instrument like septometer. We can always measure the LAI. So once we have that one, the ground measurement, then we can relate that one with the satellite vegetation indices. Then we can develop, or like we can extrapolate for the larger area. So like that, like we can see like it was found to be the most good one. Then once we have that one, then we can extrapolate for the whole study area, the leaf area index, like LAI value, how it changes partially as well as how it changes with time or temporarily. So in this way, we can estimate the LAI. So once we have the LAI, there are different function or the different methods we can use for estimation of FPAR again. So the first one, we have FPAR as a function of LAI, in which we use this K as a value of value which need to be parameterized, or we can use the value of like 0.5, which K is the light extinction coefficient. So using this K value from 0.5 also, we can try to estimate the LAI value. So for the particular same thing which I have shown here, from the LAI, we have estimated the FPAR for this Burkot area. Then other than that, like people have used like simple ratio or the NDVI, or combination of simple ratio as well as NDVI for estimation of FPAR or other, like based on the field measurement, they have developed their own equation how we can relate, like based on the NDVI, how we can estimate the FPAR value. So once we have the FPAR from the satellite, then we have the PAR from the ground data. We will be able to execute the different vegetation, like the LUA model, and we can try to estimate or assess the GPP for this Burkot area. So this is how we have done. So for on the 8 days basis, we have estimated or assessed the GPP for the Burkot area. You can see from December onwards, like when there is a little bit like cold season, because due to the constraint in temperature, there is little bit reduction in the GPP or the gross primary productivity, but with the like little bit increase in temperature, like you can see slight increase in the gross primary productivity for the Burkot area. Then as we move along, like you can see little bit increase. Then when we see like there is little bit decrease in the May, from April, if we move along to May, then you can see slight decrease in the GPP, which is mostly constant due to the increase in temperature and reduction in the moisture in the ecosystem. Then you can see towards June, like by the late monsoon season, like by the monsoon season, you can see more greening of our forest and more GPP. You can see more increase in the forest productivity. You can see towards August and September and October, and like with the end of season, like November towards, if we move December, then there will be a slight decrease in the gross primary productivity or productivity by the vegetation. So in this case, what you have seen earlier, like particularly in this 4th July and 5th August, like why I'm showing this one is because mostly all these FPAR product or the fraction of photosynthetic active radiation, or how much LAI or how much canopy area is available for plant to do the absorption. So in that case, this optical data, what we have used for estimation of FR is going to be affected by the cloud condition. So due to the cloud condition, the FR that we have estimated is going to be underestimated in some cases, and in some cases it may be overestimated. So in this case, you can see like there is some underestimation in the FR values, so which lead to the underestimation in the GPP of that area. Particularly if you see like there is a stark difference in the GPP value where there is cloud and where there is no cloud area. Like on the left, on the bottom side, you can see is the healthy vegetation. So in this case also there should be more of a healthy vegetation, but due to the cloud cover, you can see there is less like prediction in the GPP. So just wanted to highlight like due to cloud there is some limitation when we use the optical data. So similarly, like all the concept that is what I have shown before is all the same, but so the same thing can also be done on a larger picture. Like you don't need to download all those satellite data that you that I have done in the that we have done in the previous study. So the same thing can be applied in the Google Earth engine, and like we have done the GPP estimation for the foothills area in the Himalayan foothills, like where we have the dry deciduous and the moist deciduous forest, and we have estimated like how the GPP it looks like for the like 2001 to 2020, and how it changes like monthly. You can also see for this particular area where we have the flood site. So this is how the validation we have done, and we were able to get a good agreement between the ground observed and the estimated GPP. So this is using the temperature greenness model or a TG model. So next thing is like similarly the same thing, the LUE model, which uses the concept of light use efficiency model, like the scalar, T scalar, P scalar, and the phenological scalar. So in this case also for the whole area we have done using the same concept in Google Earth engine. So you can see like how it changes like from year to year, and within the year, then how it changes from month to month. So there is a slight increase in some cases, like there you may see, but at a slight drop in between. But in general, you can see a slight increase in the GPP for this, but forest area. So this is the thing that you can do with Google Earth engine also. So coming to next, like little bit more advanced method is the or the models that we can say is the pre-less model, or like we can say it's more of a semi-empirical model in which they try to couple the GPP or the process of photosynthesis as well as the process of evapotranspirations. As we know, like both the evapotranspiration and photosynthesis, they are coupled together. So in this model, they try to predict more of a they try to capture more the phenomenon which is actually taking place in the plant photosynthesis. So in this, the pre-less, it's nothing, the full form is like predicting light use efficiency, evapotranspiration, and soil moisture. So if you look for this full form of pre-less, then you'll be able to find that one. So in this, the input climatic data are very similar with what we use in the light use efficiency model, but additionally we have to give some other parameter like which is related to not only related to the Emax value or the maximum light use efficiency, like the transpiration or evapotranspiration efficiency, or like the transpiration rate for a particular vegetation, we have to give that one. Then we have to define the soil depth and the soil characteristic, like the wilting point and the the texture and the soil depth and all. Then we will be able to assess the GPP as well as the evapotranspiration for that particular area. So in this case, what we have done here is for the same thing for 2016, you can see for the whole Barcode area, we have estimated the GPP using the pre-less model. So this is the for 2016, and this is for winter, in the winter only. Then ET, this is the evapotranspiration. For annual evapotranspiration, then we have the seasonal or the monthly evapotranspiration. Then we have for 2017, you can see how it changes. Then for 2018, we have this one. Then for seasonal, we have the monsoon, post-monsoon summer, like how it changes. On the scale of evapotranspiration, you can see here, like we can use this model for estimation of GPP as well as for evapotranspiration. So, but these are some of the more little bit advanced model like which uses more calibration parameter than the simple light use efficiency and the empirical models. So coming to next is one more models like or the more advanced model like the BioBCC or the DGBM models like which uses more of all the processes that is involved in the photosynthesis, or not only in the photosynthesis like the climatic parameter, how they are interlinked, and then the soil parameter, like how they are again driving the respiration or the ecosystem or the soil nutrient what is available on the ground. It will how much the nitrogen fixation is taking place. All those like more of a complete biogeochemical cycle model it is here. So it is more of an advanced one. So yeah, but the input data here, if you want to understand for BioBCC, is like the maximum climate daily temperature, then minimum, then we have to give the average temperature, again the total precipitation for the daily in centimeter, then we have the VPD value, how much vapor deficit pressure, we have to give that one, then we have to give the incoming solar radiation, then at last we have to give the maximum day length, or like in second, like how much sunshine was there, like when the day started and when the day ended. So once you have this one, then we will be able to map it, work out easily. So why I've shown this model, particularly this BioBCC model, is like the same model, this type of model or the process based or the biogeochemical model. It can be used for studying like how the possible future climate change scenario is going to affect the this productivity. So one, because already from the RCP, or like we have this from IPCC, like the scenario which they have already generated, like how the temperature is going to change, how the climate, how the CO2 concentration is going to increase. So once we have incorporate all those input in this model, then we can have an idea about like how this vegetation or the vegetation productivity or forest productivity is going to change. So in this case, you can see some of the area, like these are the forest area of Uttarakhand, in which the productivity is changing, but more of a pixelated nature you can see within this study or the findings that we have got. The reason is because the climatic data which we got or like which we have is like 9 kilometer era 5 data. So because of the climatic data only, you can see like more of a pixel. So if the climatic data or the meteorological data improve, the input data improve, then definitely the output data is going to improve. So these are some of the methods like ranging from the simple empirical models to the advanced like the semi-empirical, then the advanced like BioBCC model, how we can use this method for estimation of forest productivity. So you can see like in conclusion, you can say is like the forest ecosystem is a very important component for carbon cycle. So in order to understand like how the carbon cycle is going to behave like with the climate change, and like how much they are going to sequester, or how much intake is going to take place over the year, or like the capacity for a particular forest ecosystem, how much they are able to retain or how much they are able to take in the atmospheric CO2. So we can understand only after we do the assessment of this vegetation productivity. So for assessment of vegetation productivity, there are several methods like ranging from the empirical models, like we have the empirical models, but the issue with the empirical models is we need this ground information for establishing the empirical equation. So once we have established the empirical equation, the accuracy for modeling the assessment or assessing modeling or assessing the vegetation productivity for that particular forest type or then or of that locality, it will be very good, but whether the same equation can be adopted or applied in the other region has to be tested and verified. Then one more is like among those models which we have come through, like one model is that is the temperature greenness model. So temperature greenness, such type of model is useful when there is very limited demand of input data, like all those data which we need as an input for assessing the vegetation productivity can be derived from remote sensing data. So we don't need the ground measurement for the assessment of the vegetation productivity. So once we have parameterized the M value for a particular vegetation type or a particular forest type, then we can, for every year or for any other time, we can always assess how much forest productivity is going to take place or has taken place over that time based on the satellite data only. Then in case of process-based model, there are like they try to capture the explicit like processes which is going place or which is actually taking place in the ecosystem. But what happen is like often it is difficult to obtain the proper input data which is required. Particularly if you have to do for a new forest type or for a particular like locality, or like if you want a very precise estimate for a Indian forest condition, then in some cases like some parameters has to be developed, has to be worked from the ground. Then we have to develop for a particular site. So input data is tremendous, and like we have without improving the input data or the parameters, we won't be able to get the like accurate results. Then more of like there are also some uncertainty in the process-based model, as there are more number of structure and a parameter that is incorporated in the model, like so the uncertainty increases. So again with the climatic meteorological data also, how the input is going to be, so the like uncertainty again increases with that one. But overall, like if you see, like when you have to do the forest productivity assessment or estimation for this particular, for a particular area, for a or a geographical area or on a larger scale, we always need like not only remote sensing data, but like we need the geospatial technique, like whatever the climatic data that we are going to get or we are going to give as an input is always going to be in a geospatial data format. So how we handle all those geospatial data format, and like how we can convert that one from one format to another, all those are always needed when we go for a large scale forest productivity estimation. So I think with this, uh, uh, so this is finally like the eddy coverage technique that we have, or the flux tower that we have over the Sal forest in the Barcode area. So with this, I think if you have any doubt or queries, then you may please rise. You may please ask.